Getting your planes and chisels and hand tools really sharp is one of the most important skills in woodworking, but it's often misunderstood, and I think people have a really tough time mastering it. There's a lot of misinformation out there, I think, honestly, in a big part due to sponsorships, and it's really tough to master if you haven't seen or used like a really sharp tool, because you don't know what you're really trying to get to. Now, I've made a career out of sharpening. I have millions of views on my videos, and I love sharpening. I can do it really fast. I love getting razor sharp edges. And so it should be easy to learn, but I think that a big roadblock for people is that sharpening jigs suck, and freehand sharpening is really tough to master. My good friend Matt Esley, who is a woodworking instructor, loves to say that you can't get a chisel more sharp by freehand sharpening. So people use jigs to learn. Today I'm gonna walk you through all the issues with kind of the current types of sharpening jigs on the market, show you how I fixed it by filing a patent for a game-changing sharpening jig that will sharpen anything you can throw at it without having to buy a bunch of expensive accessories. I'm also gonna show you a really cool sharpening system that's sort of like Scary Sharp and Premium Diamond Stones had a baby. So let's come on in the bench and let's talk about sharpening jigs. For the most part, there's really just two types of sharpening jigs, and that's side clamping jigs or top or bottom clamping jigs. I think they're called, this one's called Eclipse and this one's called Clam style officially. All of them have pretty major design flaws, and none of them will sharpen all your tools without a bunch of expensive accessories. Now, side clamping, this is the cheap one. I know every single one of you has this in your toolbox collecting dust somewhere. These are problematic because when you tighten down on them, they can splay out, which isn't such a big deal with like a blade iron, but if you do smaller chisels, I can create like a compound angle where it's canted out one way and this way, and you get like a weird shape on the end of your chisel that you have to fix later on. All of them cannot do small chisels because obviously the geometry of these two pieces hit each other, so you can't actually get a tight grip. And of course, none of them can do beveled blades or like a weird shaped blade. You have to make a jig. It's different for every single one because the rollers are different size. The side clamping jigs have really small rollers, so they tend to be very tippy. And of course, the ergonomics on these, this is a tool that you have to push down really hard on a cutting tool, and the corners of chisels and plane irons can get really sharp. I know all of you have been paring something and cut yourself on the side of the chisel. I know that I've worn the tips of my fingers off regrinding bevels time and time again. And of course your fingers are in the front, so if you catch, it ends up with your hand in front of the blade. Of course, it's super dirty. I know it's a running joke around here that we've never finished a sharpening video with less Band-Aids than we started with. It's just guaranteed I'm gonna cut myself. Even the most premium options are problematic. The Lee Nielsen jig, which is like considered the absolute best of the side clampers, and it really is, I've used it before, it starts at $150. And then if you want to do beveled blades, you need to buy an attachment for both the left and the right bevel. Each one is $45. If you want to do skinny chisels, that's another $45. And if you want to do short blades like a spoke shave, that's another $45. So all in for something like that, if you want to sharpen all your chisels and plane irons, you're looking at like $420 to $465. And then there's woodpeckers. What is the woodpeckers one? Oh my God, $300 the woodpeckers one costs. And all you get is a side clamping jig and an angle setting guide. So, geez Louise. So let's talk about the problems with the clam style. The clam style jigs, they solve a lot of the problems that the side clamping jigs have. They still have the same ergonomics problem where you have to push down on the blade, but they introduce one of the most serious issues with these is this. It's that it's so easy to bump it out of square. Now I'm cranking down on this as hard as I can. Now look how easy this is to bump out a square. And that can, you know, with something cantilevered out like this, that's really easy to bump on your tool apron and, you know, even bump while you're setting it down. Both the clam style and the side clampers have a problem with skinny blades. Now, this is the Lee Valley jig. This is considered the gold standard for this style. It starts at $90, but on their website, it specifically says you can't do blades under ½ inch. So they offer you another one that clamps from the side, but has all the same features as this one. But that's an extra $122 if you want to buy that one on its own, or if you want to buy them together, it's $173. And again, these still can't do angled beveled blades. They offer another jig that's I think another $43. So all in, if you want to sharpen all your chisel blades on this style, with the premium one, it's going to be $220. And I've long been a critic of this jig. These are three types. Honestly, the most expensive is my least favorite for so many reasons, which I won't get into in this video, but I'll go into them now. Setup is really cumbersome for these. You got to get the angle setting jig, make sure it's the right width. You know, you got to measure your chisel, put it in there, and then when you take this off, that whole bumping it out of square makes this real nerve-wracking taking it off because you don't want to accidentally bump it. The thing that really bothers me about these is the micro adjust bevel. I don't ever use this anymore because so many times I've been regrinding a bevel for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then I go to set the micro adjust and end up with an angled micro bevel, and that's so frustrating. In fact, here's a clip of me doing it in a sharpening video 7 years ago, and this is right after I'd purchased it, so I just didn't know what the issue was. So to put it mildly, I've never been satisfied with any sharpening jig. And that's precisely why I'm so excited to introduce to you today the patent pending Katz-Moses universal sharpening jig. My product development North Star has always been innovation through simplicity. So many companies think that if they throw a bunch of bells and whistles on something, you're not going to notice that none of those functions work well. I started this project a couple of years ago, and I knew that it had to have a few things. One was it had to be simple and easy to use. Two, it had to sharpen everything you own. It had to be repeatable and accurate every time. It had to be comfortable and keep your fingers in a safe place while you're using it. So let me show you how this baby works and how we solved all of the problems I talked about before, all of them, and how it's less expensive than the base model of any of our competitors. All right, so this is the Katz-Moses universal sharpening jig. It comes with a permanent swing arm on it that stays on. You can take it off to change your roller or clean it, but you operate the jig with it on there. It has the two most common degrees, which I use 99% of the time, which is 25 and 30 degrees. That's how I sharpen my main bevel and get my micro adjust. Some of the innovative features on this are the magnetic fence. This has a neodymium magnet in the bottom. It goes into 90 degrees. You can do 35 or 45. That's to help you regrind bevels. You know, obviously your Skew chisels can get really beat up because prior to this, there was nothing you could do but sharpen them freehand. In addition to the swing arm, if you want to sharpen odd angles, we give you another attachment. Comes with it, you don't have to buy it. That goes from 20 to 35 degrees. Now, this is how we've solved some of these problems. The fence is 2 points of contact at all times on your chisel when you're sharpening. So you can't bump it out of square because it's gonna hit the fence. Whether you bump it this way, it'll hit the front pin, or this way, it'll hit the back pin. The swing arm is designed for setting any angle. This is at 25 degrees. You can see that hits the fence at the same place here. And that's gonna allow you to set perfect, repeatable angles every single time. You don't need a jig, you don't need to wonder if things have been bumped or moved, and it's gonna work really, really well every time. It's got a very nice wide brass roller. We're working on a camber roller for it, so we have one with a little bit of curve to it that'll be coming out here soon, and it just solves all the problems. But a big one that we talked about was ergonomics too, right? Most jigs, you have to put your fingers down there, but this jig is way different. We have thumb holes in the back here, and the swing arm is actually what applies pressure to your stone. So you put your thumbs in those holes and your fingers on top of the jigs like this, and that's what's gonna create the pressure. So you're gonna drag it just like that, and the cantilever in the back is what gets you to regrind your bevel. So works incredibly well, and most importantly, it does all of your plane and chisel blades. It's really easy to set up. So part of those jigs and all the being so fiddly is you have all these attachments that are really, really a pain in the butt. So to set this up, I'm gonna just show you real quickly how easy this is. I've inserted my fence. You know, because this roller is so wide, you don't really need to hit middle. I'm gonna slide this over. I like to leave it on because it's a great kickstand, but if I'm just doing my regular angles, this works really well because it's two very wide points of contact. Let's say I want to do a micro bevel at 30 degrees. I've got my fence here and my fence here. So with 2 points of contact, you know you're going to get that square. So I pull it into my fence with my hand, push it into my fence as well, and then I can just grab that clam clamp. That's tough to say. That sounds real dirty. And just tighten it like that, and it's going to swing around. I can move my kickstand over, and there you go. I'm set up to sharpen. You're not going to bump it out of square, and it's going to be repeatable every single time because you're square here, your fence is square, and so with 2 square points of contact, you really can't even mess this up. Makes it very easy, keeps your fingers away from the blade. You don't have to hold the chisel, and it's really, really easy to sharpen. So let me show you all the other blades it can hold, and then we'll actually take it and put it on some stones and show you how it works. Obviously, with straight plane and chisel blades, it's really easy to use this. But this is where this thing really excels, is it can do all your other blades. This is the largest plane blade you could buy. This is a number 8. It's so big, especially when you look at it against other stuff. Sorry, but I digress. But it's really cool. It can do all sorts of beveled blades, weird shaped blades. It'll do short little spoke shave blades without having to buy any other accessories. This is a rabbiting number 5, I believe, from Lee Nielsen. This is a Lee Nielsen block plane, and they have really weird shaped blades. And what's cool is, even if the fence isn't gonna work for you, let me show you. I take this guy and we go right into that 25. Even if I wasn't gonna use the fence, I still have a very square reference here, just like that. But if I wanna put it against the fence, we can as well. And then we still have 2 points of contact. And I grab it just like this. And it's ready to sharpen. And we got that good ergonomics, just like that. Here's one of my favorite examples to show people. This is the ZenWoo marking knife. It is really cool. And now bevels, like all these bevels, you can tell these are all very different angles. This is 45 degrees, or I guess you would call that 90. Each side is 45. But this is a really good example. And what I like to do to make this very easy is you put the fence in at an angle there, and then you use the front of it as like a fulcrum. And that gives you a pivot point, sort of like the starter pin on a router, how that's so much safer and easier to use. You use the front of the guide like a fulcrum. I'm gonna take it right there. See, I can like twist and find square on my fence, just like that. I'll grab the bottom of the clamshell here and tighten it down, and then boom, I can just sharpen my marking knife just like that. Move my little kickstand back to the middle, and there you go, just like that. Let me show you another one. The Skew block plane is a really good example as well, because it goes the other way. So I'm gonna just set up my fulcrum over here, drops right in. That magnet is super strong. It's N52 neodymium. I'm gonna take this, slide that over, because I wanna just do 30 degrees. I got my pivot point on there, just like that. Slide that in, grab the bottom, tighten these knobs, and it really Bob's your uncle. It doesn't get easier than that. And just like that, perfectly straight, get a perfect bevel. This marking knife from the router plane is really cool too. This is where you know this is the max. So take this, you can open it up. I think it opens to about 0.41 inches. So it'll get just about everything except like those real thick mortising chisels. I'm gonna take this in and watch, you can go right there. And we got a really good flat reference there. I didn't even have to use my fence as a fulcrum. And now we have an unbelievable way to sharpen a router plane blade. All right, another cool thing this can do is skinny chisels. This is a 16th inch chisel. None of the other jigs can do this. And because I have my 2 points of contact on the fence here, I don't have to worry about it being out of square. I've got my second point of contact here, which makes setting it up really easy. And there we go. We can sharpen a tiny little chisel like that. That's not something you've ever been able to do before. In fact, look at this. This is my first ever Skew chisel I bought. Look how faceted and absolutely out of square this is, because I never knew how to sharpen this. It was too skinny for me to do freehand, and none of my jigs would take it. So I just stropped this over and over and over. And when it would get really bad, I tried real hard to freehand it, but it never worked. And now I have something that can do that. Let me show you this new sharpening system, and we'll actually sharpen a plane blade and show you how cool the two work together. All right, so to get started here, this is the new ZenSharp system. I'll show you in a minute, but it's like Scary Sharp and Premium Diamond Stones had a baby. I'm gonna sharpen my Skew block plane, because admittedly, I've never sharpened it because I've never had anything that could. So I'm gonna put that in there to give myself a point of contact, slide my multi-angle out of the way, and then I'm gonna use that pivot point there to get it nice and flat on that 30-degree shelf there. I'm gonna pinch the bottom just to lock it in. I'm gonna tighten these knobs. And having that extra point of contact on there, that really helps we talked about it, that you can easily bump these blades. And there we go. Slide this guy back to the middle, which is gonna give it a kickstand. Now, because I'm just doing a micro bevel, this is the super coarse. I don't think I need to start there. I'm gonna start with my medium here. And what's so cool about this is steel with magnet. It's heat treated 3 times to ensure it is super, super flat. You know that premium diamond stones a lot of times aren't even flat. It's really hard to find ones that are actually flat. This is very flat, and then they have these magnetic plates. These are only about $10 to replace, so you get the starter kit. I think it's like $115, and you get 2 cards and a strop, or you can get the Pro Kit, which has 6 of them, but it works really, really well. I love the fact that these diamond stones are consumables, but these are very, very inexpensive to replace. Put a little lubrication on there, and then we're just gonna get a little micro bevel here. And just like that, using my thumbs to cantilever. Like I said, we just want to check and make sure we get a burr before we get onto our next stone. And we do. Got a little burr there, a little micro bevel. Set that down. One of the things I love about this has these little notches in here. And then there's also a little groove in here that if you get any lubricant or dust, it's going to get pushed in there and not affect the flatness. So we'll do our fine stone here, and then we're going to strop. Just about 30 strokes. Feel the back, we got a burr. Now, before we strop, we're gonna do the back here. So I'm actually gonna leave that stone in there. I'm gonna take this out. I'm gonna strop by hand, although you can use the jig on a strop. Because it's so repeatable, you can easily put this back in there and strop. I'm gonna do the back here. Usually, they recommend you only apply pressure on the pull stroke, and definitely when you're doing the back, it's good to be really careful you don't gouge any of your stones or mess up your bevel. But this is pretty flat, so I feel good about it. All right, now let's do our strop. Now these are so cool because these are permanently impregnated with compound, so you actually don't ever need to add compound to these, which makes them so cool. Now, one of the cool things about this system is you can just buy the cards and stick them to a piece of MDF. So if you don't want to invest in the base, you totally could do that. You can buy just the replacements. Find my bevel, do about 30 strokes. All right, I don't think this ever gets old, shaving paper like that. And I certainly have never been able to do a skew chisel until now, or a skew block plane. That is so satisfying. Gosh, I love that. You know, it's funny, I've sharpened so much developing this, but I still love it so much every time you get a blade like that. It's really satisfying. This is not a pre-sale. These are here in the shop. So these are for sale. They are in stock. Depending on the response, it may take us a week or 2 to get them out, just because usually when we do launches like this, we sell quite a few of them because, you know, hey, we try. And I think we hit the nail on the head here. I can't even tell you how much this has solved all of my frustrations with sharpening jig, and I have done a lot of sharpening. So you are gonna love this. It is cheaper than the base model of any of our premium competitors, and it does everything they do, but you have to spend hundreds of dollars to get it done. So please head over to Cam Tools, check it out. The ZenSharp System will be over there, both the starter kit, the stones, if you wanna just get the stones by themselves, and a Pro Kit. And then let's do a contest. Anybody who buys a jig for the launch will be entered to win $500 gift certificate to Cam Tools. So super cool. A little thank you for your support over the years. And then certainly after we posted that last video about kind of my life story of my entrepreneurial journey, you guys have been just so supportive, and I can't thank you enough. We really try, and we're working real hard over here, so thank you. And you guys stay safe in the shop. Have a wonderful day.